Hey everybody, I've had a few of you ask me about changing your pool water, when and why. So in this episode, we're going to address that. So, first question about changing water out in your pool. Why? Why do you need to change water out in your pool? Well, I kind of equate it to this. Your water molecules have the ability to absorb chemicals. And eventually those water molecules become saturated. They become so saturated that they no longer will hold chemicals such as chlorine. And that's the most important one when it comes to keeping your pool bacteria-free and sanitary. So the reason you have to change your water out from time to time is because those water molecules get so saturated they will no longer hold chlorine, and you will burn through a ton more chlorine, and your pool will not stay as clear, or the water will not stay as clear and pure as it should be. So that's the why of having to change your water out. That brings us to the when. When you change your water kind of depends on a few things. Number one, it depends on use, it depends on climate, it depends on weather, it depends on how much chemicals you are adding to your pool anyway. And so it can vary. I kind of use two measuring devices. The first one I use is the general time one. General time, usually in Arizona, I recommend people change the water in their pool every 5 to 7 years. And again, it depends on use and the climate and the weather that we've had that year. It's an easy way to do it. It's fairly safe. 5 to 7 years is a fairly good estimate. The other way, which is a lot more accurate, is kind of two options. Number one, you can get a tube of these. These are the AquaCheck 7. Now remember, I showed you in the testing your pool chemistry video about using the AquaCheck Pro Strips. These are the AquaCheck 7s. They have a few more tests in here. They test for water hardness, and they also test, and here's the big one, for cyanuric acid, or CYA for short. Cyanuric acid is kind of the measuring device that you use to tell if your pool water needs to be changed. Now what cyanuric acid is, it's basically labeled also stabilizer. Stabilizer, when put in fresh water, allows the water molecules to absorb and hang on to chemistry or chemicals like chlorine. The funny thing is if you have too much cyanuric acid or stabilizer in your water molecules, they become saturated and then they will no longer hold chlorine. So that's kind of the dichotomy. But you can either get a tube of these, which I will put a link to in the description of this video, or, and my recommendation, because you don't have to do this very often, you're spending I don't know how many dollars to buy a tube of these, and there's 100 in here. So you have 100 of these and they're going to sit on your shelf, because you really only need to kind of test your water with these once or twice a year, maybe every 6 months, maybe even once a year. So the other suggestion I have is go to a reputable pool supply store nearby you, bring in a sample of your water, and have them test for the cyanuric acid or CYA. Now, here's the indicator that you might need to change your water. If the cyanuric acid levels or CYA levels are very high, then it's a good chance you're going to need to change your water. That's really all there is to it. So if the cyanuric acid level is really high, you're going to want to change your water out pretty soon. That's pretty much how it works. Again, you can use this, which you can click on a link and purchase some of these in the description below, or just take your pool water sample to a reputable pool supply company, have them test it for cyanuric acid or CYA, and if it's high, you're going to need to change your water out. Now, if your cyanuric acid levels are low, then you're going to want to add some stabilizer, because remember what I said, Cyanuric acid is also called stabilizer. It's sold as a product called stabilizer, and that allows your pool to actually hold its chemistry and get the water molecules to where they actually can absorb, right? So if your cyanuric acid levels are low, you're going to add some stabilizer to your pool. Simple way to do it: buy a small bucket of stabilizer, start your filter running, open your skimmer basket, which is on the side of the pool, the cover, and pour in about 1 pound of cyanuric acid. Let your filter run. It will dissolve the cyanuric acid quickly. And then after a few hours, test your water again, maybe with one of these, or you're gonna have to take a sample in to your local dealer and find out what your cyanuric acid levels are. And if your levels then are in the ideal range, then you're in good shape. If not, add a little more and repeat the process till you get your cyanuric acid levels up. One really quick note. Chlorine tablets have binders that hold them in their tablet form. And what some genius decided was that it'd be a good idea to make cyanuric acid, or CYA, the binder for chlorine tablets. So what happens is, as you're adding chlorine tablets to your pool, it's constantly releasing small amounts of cyanuric acid. What that does, it starts to expedite the increase of cyanuric acid levels in your pool. That means when it gets too high, your water molecules again will reject the chlorine and you'll have to replace your water. So that's another reason why you have to replace your water from time to time. So again, that's just a little note to help you out. I am at one of my clients' pools, and I decided to show you with my test strip how to use this. So you notice there's a lot more little dots on there. There's 7 of them actually. And the 2 that I'm going to be most concerned about on this one is the top one and the bottom one. The top one is total hardness. It just tells me how hard the water is, and sometimes depending on the area you live in, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. The bottom one is the big one when it comes to testing to see if your pool water might need to be changed. The bottom one is the cyanuric acid. So again, I'm going to dip my stick into the pool. I'm going to hold it up, wait about 15 seconds, and you see that color right there. I'm going to take that color, I'm going to compare it to the bottom of the strip according to the guide. And if you look at it, it looks like my cyanuric acid levels in this pool are fairly high. Let me move this over here so you can maybe see it. You can see the color here compared to the color here. It's pretty dark, right? So I'd say that it's in the high zone. See that? And so that might be a good indicator that this pool water might need to be changed. That's pretty much it. The rest of these are total chlorine, free chlorine, pH, alkalinity. I guess if you wanted to, you could actually order these test strips and use these year-round every week for your regular testing. I just think they're a little pricier, and based on me, when I do pools, I go through a lot of these test strips, so I don't really want to use the expensive ones because I don't need those tests every week. You might want to, but it's entirely up to you. So there you have it. That's how you check your cyanuric acid level on your own. Again, this one's a little high. Obviously, too much time has gone by now, so these are getting all changing colors now. But that's how you do it. So there you have it, folks. That's the why and when of changing your water out. Again, why? Because the water molecules get saturated and they'll eventually no longer hold chemicals, especially chlorine. When? As a general rule, every 5 to 7 years, depending on use and climate, or test your cyanuric acid levels with either the AquaCheck 7 strips, or take a water sample into your pool supply company locally and have them test for cyanuric acid, or CYA. If it's high, you're going to need to probably consider changing your water out. If it's low, you're probably going to need to add some cyanuric acid or stabilizer to your pool to get those level ups so they will hold chemistry. Oh, 2 more things. Number 1, if you have to change the water out in your pool, make sure you do it at a time when your daytime temperatures do not exceed 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's super important, because if you do and you drain it and then your pool sits, it will dry the plaster or PebbleTech too fast and it can crack it, and that can cause some serious and expensive damage to your pool. So make sure if you do change your water out, or you have to, that you do it like in the fall or winter or spring, where the temperature in the daytime does not exceed 80 degrees. Also, a lot of you might want to change the pool water out yourself, and that's totally okay. You can go rent a pump from a rental company, an equipment rental company, and drain it and refill it yourself. My suggestion is you hire a reputable and licensed, insured, and bonded pool repair company to come out and do it for you. It's a lot easier and it'll save you a lot of hassle. So that is today's lesson. I hope it made sense. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me at kennypoolschool@gmail.com. Again, kennypoolschool@gmail.com, and there it is right there on the bottom. Or you can leave me a message in the comment section of this video. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and please share this video with friends of yours. And until next time, stay cool, be safe, and always, always, always watch your kids around water, even in the wintertime.